Hey everyone, Nigel and Luke here, and welcome to another edition of Crimes of the Week International. Representatives from the Singapore police force say that a 33-year-old Chinese tourist is in hot water this week after he allegedly tried to extort his own aunt for ransom money by faking his own kidnapping. The whole thing apparently started on March 1st when 33-year-old Lu Changjian traveled from his home in China to Singapore for what was supposed to be a 5-day vacation. When he failed to return, his family understandably got worried. Their concern quickly turned to alarm when on March 7th, Lu's aunt, Lu Yabo, started receiving texts on the messaging platform WeChat saying that her nephew had been kidnapped. The messages, which were from a number that the aunt didn't recognize, claimed that they had taken Lu and that they were now holding him captive. They further threatened that he wouldn't be released until they received a ransom of 30,000 yuan, or about $4,200 US. A picture of Lu's identity documents were sent as proof that the threats were legitimate. Instead of paying, though, Lu's aunt alerted his father, who in turn called Singapore police on March 9th. It took them just 3 hours to figure out what had actually happened. According to reports, Lu was in no actual danger and instead had been hanging out at the Marina Bay Sands casino. He allegedly sent the threatening texts to his aunt himself in a bid to recover some of the money he had lost gambling during his vacation. The 33-year-old's total losses are estimated to be between 20,000 and 30,000 Singaporean dollars, or about $15,000 to $23,000 US. Lu was arrested and has now been charged with attempted cheating, though the charge might not sound that serious. As we've mentioned several times in previous editions of this show, Singapore really isn't a place where you want to commit crimes. If convicted, Lu could be looking at up to 10 years in prison and a hefty fine. Members of South Africa's Egyptian Coptic Christian community are reportedly in mourning this week following a terrifying attack at a monastery that took the lives of 3 monks. The disturbing incident unfolded sometime in the early morning hours of March 12th at the St. Mark and St. Samuel the Confessor Monastery in Cullinan, a town close to the South African capital of Pretoria. According to reports, after police were called to the scene, 3 people were found dead inside. They have since been identified as Assistant Bishop Father Takla Musa, Father Minna Eva Marcus, and Father Eustace Eva Marcus. All of the men had died from stab wounds. A 4th victim, who has not been identified by name, was apparently attacked with an iron rod, though managed to escape into one of the other rooms of the church until help could arrive. At the time of this recording, few additional details have been released about the tragic situation. We don't know the motive behind the crime, nor are there even confirmed reports about how many suspects allegedly took part. However, police have said that a 35-year-old man has been arrested in connection with the incident. His name has not been revealed. However, he is also said to be a man of Egyptian nationality who was a member of the church and was on probation to become a Coptic monk. According to police, there were no signs of forced entry at the church and no valuables appeared to have been taken. The situation is still under investigation. Authorities in the Indian state of Maharashtra are commending a 42-year-old bus driver for his bravery and quick thinking this week after he foiled a dangerous robbery and protected his nearly 3 dozen passengers, all while suffering from a bullet injury to his hand. The whole thing took place sometime on March 10th when the driver, Kamdev Kawade, was transporting 35 people from the city of Amravati to Nagpur in his minibus. The passengers had been visiting a temple that day and were on their way home when things took a harrowing turn. According to Kamdev, they had just passed through a toll area in the town of Nandgaon, Peth, and were heading down the highway when he noticed that there was an SUV that was following closely behind his bus. At first, he assumed that the driver just wanted to get around him, so he tried to make plenty of space, giving the vehicle at least 2 opportunities to pass. Eventually, the SUV did pass. However, when it did, it quickly became clear that they had more sinister intentions in mind. They were trying to rob those on board the bus. Once in front, Comdev said that those inside the SUV began shooting at his bus, clearly trying to make the vehicle come to a stop. At least 4 rounds were fired, one of which hit the 42-year-old in the hand. Despite bleeding profusely and finding himself in considerable pain, Comdev reportedly kept control of the bus and refused to stop, realizing that he needed to get himself and his passengers to safety. He continued on for almost 19 miles, being chased by the suspects the entire way until he reached a police station where he was able to get help. While some reports state that 3 passengers were also injured during the incident, other statements from police have disputed this, saying that Comdev was the only person hospitalized. Regardless, it appears that the bus driver suffered the most serious injuries and is said to be recovering well. At the time of this recording, police say that they are still searching for 4 suspects allegedly involved in the crime. It's believed that the SUV the culprits were driving had been stolen from the northern state of Uttar Pradesh several days earlier. Authorities in the Brazilian city of Rio de Janeiro say that 2 people are injured this week, one of whom is fighting for their life, following a tense hostage situation aboard a bus that was allegedly carried out by a criminal who was fleeing from a local drug gang. According to reports, the whole thing began in the middle of the afternoon on March 12th at the Novo Rio bus terminal in the city's Santo Cristo neighborhood. A double-decker bus had just departed the station and was supposed to be headed north to the state of Minas Gerais. However, it barely made it 500 yards before the air conditioner on board gave out, forcing it to turn back. When the bus pulled into the terminal, a few passengers got up and decided to leave. Seconds later, the situation erupted into chaos when gunshots were fired. Those gunshots were reportedly fired by a 29-year-old man named Paulo Sergio de Lima. One of those bullets grazed a passenger. A second victim, 34-year-old Bruno Costa de Soares, wasn't so lucky. He was hit 3 times in the torso. After firing the shots, Lima instructed all the remaining 16 passengers on board to stay put, holding them at gunpoint. It wasn't long before military police and special operations officers arrived at the scene and cordoned the whole station off, leading to a standoff. The tense situation lasted for approximately 3 hours, during which time Lima allegedly shot at police more than once. Thankfully, though, no one else was hit, and authorities did not return fire in fear of wounding or killing any of the hostages. After speaking with the negotiator for some time, Lima finally agreed to surrender and released the 16 uninjured passengers at the same time. At that point, the 29-year-old was also taken into custody. Following his arrest, Lima reportedly told investigators that he had fired the initial shots that led to the hostage situation because he mistook one of the victims for a police officer. He said that he thought authorities were on to him after he killed a drug dealer 2 days earlier. The 29-year-old went on to explain that he himself was involved in drug trafficking, and that on March 10th he went to a local bar in Rio's Hosina neighborhood to take care of some business. However, while there, he got into an argument with another dealer and ended up fatally shooting him during the confrontation. While Lima was worried about being arrested, what he feared even more was what might happen when other members of the dead man's gang figured out what had happened. As a result, after hiding out for 2 days, he had purchased a bus ticket to Minas Gerais, where he planned to lay low at a family home. Already paranoid by the time he got on the bus, when it suddenly turned back right after leaving the station, Lima apparently assumed this meant he had been caught. He became convinced that one of the passengers on the bus was actually a cop, and that's when he started firing. At the time of this recording, Lima remains in custody and is now facing charges including attempted murder, kidnapping, false imprisonment, and illegal possession of a restricted-use firearm with suppressed numbers. The victim of a brazen vehicle theft was apparently left in stunned disbelief last week after her caravan was stolen right before her eyes while she was on vacation, only for her to later learn that the alleged culprit was an 11-year-old boy. The whole thing started on March 7th when the victim, Janine Forth, was on a trip with her family to a holiday park in the town of Thirsk. She and her family members had made a quick trip out, presumably to get some supplies, only to be greeted by an unwelcome surprise when they returned. They arrived just in time to watch their motorhome being stolen. It had been hitched up to a BMW and was in the process of being driven away. Janine and her family called North Yorkshire Police at around 3:30 p.m., who immediately launched an investigation. They were able to catch up with the vehicle in question about 45 minutes later. By that time, it had been taken about 36 miles south near the town of Garforth. When police pulled over the BMW's driver, they were reportedly shocked to see who was behind the wheel. It was an 11-year-old boy who was promptly placed under arrest. A collection of tools often used in these types of crimes was allegedly found inside the BMW, along with a number of registration plates. Apparently, the caravan was equipped with a tracking device, but this had been broken and removed by the suspect before being stolen. At the time of this recording, few other details about the crime had been released, including whether any other people are suspected to have taken part in the theft. However, police have mentioned that the situation is still under investigation. In the meantime, the 11-year-old has been charged with a number of offenses, including theft, burglary, going equipped for theft, and dangerous driving. His name has not been released. Authorities in the historic Japanese city of Kyoto say that a 45-year-old local man is facing charges this week after a bizarre incident in which he allegedly set fire to his family home following an argument with his mother over breakfast. According to reports, the whole thing started shortly before 9 a.m. on March 8th, when emergency responders were called about a fire at a 3-story wooden house. They arrived to find the place engulfed in flames, and though firefighters acted quickly, about 860 square meters of the property was completely destroyed. Thankfully, no one was seriously hurt. A 67-year-old woman had managed to escape completely unharmed, while the only other person inside, the woman's 45-year-old son, Satoshi Yoshizaki, was treated for smoke inhalation. Apparently, though, the case got pretty strange from here. When questioned about what had happened, Yoshizaki apparently admitted that he was the one who had started the fire. He stated that on the morning of the incident, he had gotten into a heated argument with his 67-year-old mother because he wasn't happy with what was being served for breakfast. As a result, he went to his room and set fire to boxes of tissues, a situation that quickly got out of hand. Yoshizaki was arrested on March 11th on suspicion of arson and currently remains in custody. Apparently, the 45-year-old is unemployed and lived at the house with his mother and 42-year-old brother, who was at work when the crime took place. Authorities in the Thai province of Nakhon Thammarat say that they are on the hunt for the ex-boyfriend of a Burmese social media influencer after her body was found under disturbing circumstances almost a week after she disappeared. The case began sometime between March 4th and March 5th when Tuzar Ang, better known by her nickname Nong Sa, abruptly vanished. The 32-year-old, who was originally from Myanmar, had been living in Muang Nakhon Thammarat district for the last several months, where she had been documenting her life on her TikTok account. In addition to making money as an influencer, primarily selling skincare products, she also worked at a local coffee shop in her area, and it was here that she was first discovered to be missing. After the situation was reported to police, an investigation was launched, one which quickly zeroed in on a particular suspect, Nong Sa's 27-year-old former boyfriend, Petaya Bonyatsek, also known by the nickname Nai. According to police, while looking into Nong Sa's disappearance, they learned from those close to her that Nai owed her a large sum of money. He had previously borrowed 100,000 baht, or about $2,800 US from her, that friends said he had refused to pay back, with some sources saying that he had recently asked for more. Digging a little deeper, police uncovered surveillance video of Nai riding one of Nong Sa's 2 motorcycles alone on March 4th. That same day, he was apparently seen at a local market selling off some gold jewelry that investigators now believe belonged to the 32-year-old. The case took a tragic turn on March 11th when an awful discovery was made at the Wat Taokat Temple, close to where Nong Sa lived. In a pond behind the building that is no longer used, police found a woman's body. While an official identification has not been made at the time of this recording, authorities say that they are confident these are the remains of the missing 32-year-old. The body was dressed in the same clothes Nong Sa was last seen in, and her second motorcycle was apparently found parked at the scene. She reportedly died of 3 stab wounds to the neck and chest. Police say that they are currently searching for Nai, who now has a warrant out for his arrest in connection with Nong Sa's murder. It appears that authorities may be closing in on him, as the latest report suggests that investigators were able to follow the 27-year-old's trail in the days after the disappearance, one that suggests that he may have traveled to the island of Phuket. The situation is still developing. Authorities in the Australian state of Victoria say that they are investigating a truly horrifying case this week, after the body of a mother was found under disturbing circumstances more than 40 miles from her home. The whole thing started at around noon on March 9th, when Victoria Police received an unsettling tip over the phone. The caller stated that they could find the remains of a woman in the rural community of Buckley. Upon traveling to the specific location that the caller described, officers made a grisly discovery. At the edge of a field at the side of a country road was a green wheelie bin. Inside was the body of 30-year-old Chaitanya Shweta Madhagani. Her cause of death has not been released, but according to reports, it was clear that she had been dead for at least a few days. After identifying Shweta, police traveled to the house where she lived in the Melbourne suburb of Point Cook, located about 42 miles away. There, they discovered that the home's green bin was missing. That wasn't the only thing that had disappeared, however. Shweta's husband, Ashok Raj, as well as their 3-year-old son Arya, were also missing. Police now say that in the days before Shweta's body was discovered, Ashok took the boy and traveled to the Indian state of Hyderabad, where he and Shweta were originally from. He then dumped the 3-year-old at Shweta's mother's house and vanished. We know this because Ashok was allegedly the one who called police and tipped them off about the location of his wife's body. In spite of these seemingly incriminating statements and actions, police have not yet specifically accused Ashok of committing any crimes or being involved in Shweta's death. It appears that this could change, though, as investigations are ongoing at both locations linked to the case at this time. Among the items seized by police were Ashok's Mercedes SUV, which was at their Point Cook home. A pressure washer found near the remaining garbage bins outside the house is also said to be an item of interest. Neighbors of Shweta's told local media that they were stunned by what had happened, especially because they believed that she and Ashok were a happy couple. They had moved into their Point Cook home in 2016, and neighbors said that they had never witnessed any arguments or signs that something might be wrong. Shweta, in particular, was well known and liked by those in the community, and was reportedly known for being chatty and upbeat. She liked to invite people over and share food that she had cooked. People also mentioned that she absolutely adored her young son, and could often be seen taking him to a local park. Some of those closer to the couple, however, have alleged that there were problems in Shweta and Ashok's marriage that were well known to friends. One of those friends said in a recent interview, quote, "I believe those went deeper than it seems." At the time of this recording, it's unclear what the next steps will be in the case. Of course, if a warrant is released for Ashok's arrest, this will also be a difficult situation, as it will require potential extradition from India. The situation is still developing. Before we wrap up, we'd like to take a second to give a huge shout out to everyone who has made it this far into the video. Seriously, thank you so much for watching. If you found today's upload interesting and informative, we'd be honored if you'd consider liking and subscribing, as well as hitting the notification bell and selecting all notifications to stay up to date with our latest releases. If you're looking for additional ways to help support the channel, we'd love to have you join us over on Patreon. Patrons get ad-free and early access to all of our content, as well as 4 additional stories per week for each of our Crimes of the Week and Crimes of the Week International videos. You can learn more at patreon.com/crimezone, where you'll also find some of the fine folks whose names are currently on screen. All that being said, we understand that not everyone has the means to support financially, and that's totally okay. We appreciate every like, sub, share, and comment that you send our way. Once again, thanks so much everyone, and take care.